Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to talk about the role of grown-ups in making children safer online. The role of grown-ups. Oh, sorry, guys. Hey, man. I can't right now. So, I'm gonna call you like later, yeah, maybe tonight, sure. I can't check that. Can you help me check something out, please? Cool, yeah. So, again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to the subject now. But our brief performance, where I answered the phone and my colleague was searching for something for me online, we wanted to turn your attention to something really important. The role of grown-ups and how they are involved in making kids safer online. How did you feel? What did it make you feel when instead of starting the presentation for Ernest, we started doing something on our smartphones? How did you feel? Did you feel respected? Did you feel like we were serious about what you were doing? Were you confused? Were you irritated? I guess so. So, yeah, that's what we wanted to illustrate. That was just a moment when I answered that call, right? But actually, such moments, there's more such moments where our kids crave our attention and we don't give it to them, when there's always something more important than your child, and that is eating away your attention. And if it's repeating permanently, then it might be threatening. It will threaten your kids' development. It will even render it impossible for you to build a relationship with your kids. So if you don't have time, there is no relationship. And that's what we wanted to point out to you. Again, no relationship, no development, no sense of safety and security. And when we think of safety and security, there's more to that than just the online world. But still, we will stick to online safety. So quite often when we talk about safety, we say that those kids, they are online. You can hardly get them to separate from their devices. It's their problem, it's their fault. But actually, let's think about to what extent we contribute to the problem as parents, as professionals, as teachers, as educators. Let's think of ourselves, whether we have the time and the attention to give to children. So what distracts our attention? Doesn't matter. Sometimes these could be things like work, like something at home. Sorry, this time it's not part of the performance. I'm not going to take this call. Sorry. So, always before the presentation, we say to ourselves, do you have your phone off? But this time we had to make sure it was on because we were performing this little act for you, but still. But look, this phone going off once again illustrates the point. More and more often, we get distracted by other things, things that distract us from relationships with other people, other adults or kids. Kids ourselves, they point this out. When we go and organize focus groups or we do classes with kids about safety, they say that right out. Parents don't have time for us. Or parents always look in their smartphones. So this is how they see us. This is how we are in their eyes. Last week in Hamburg, so in the country of our co-organizers, one 7-year-old kid said to his parents, you use the internet too much. Hey, be careful. And those parents allowed and helped this little kid and other kids above the age 7 to organize a demonstration pointing out to this problem. Like, it's our turn, turn your phones off, play with me instead of playing with your smartphone. We are here so that you hear us. Stop looking at your phone all the time. A very interesting initiative, very symbolic. And photos from this manifestation actually went global. You can see this online instantly, practically. So we looked at all the comments. Everyone from around the world says, yes, it's a problem in our country too. Yes, it's a problem in my country too. And yes, it is a problem here. So what are we going to do about it? When we already are aware that our relationship with the kids is not as strong as it could be, but it's very, very necessary. So we have to really say that the awareness of the problem exists. It increases, but still, a lot of the parents behave in an undesirable way. Like, for example, lots of parents, over half of the parents of kids below 2 years old, give them their smartphones. A lot of kids in kindergarten use electronic devices quite often. So this, again, is not helping with relationships, with parent-child relationships. And I'm sure you see that too. Increasingly, the reason why we give our smartphone to our kid is like so that we have a moment for ourselves. But a moment for myself mostly means I will go online, I will message someone, I will be on Facebook using another device, right? So it's important to remember that, because if we don't build this relationship, if we're not in touch, so to speak, with our kid, if we don't participate in his or her life, then we will not know about what's happening in their world. We will not know that they've encountered a difficult or a threatening situation online. We will have no idea unless we build a relationship with our kid, good rapport with our kid. Then we will, in a way, push our children towards the danger itself, because we will push it away from us. So kids feel helpless. Kids feel confused. They lose trust in their children. So, yes, the fact that we don't build a relationship with our kid, that we don't find time to be with our kid, this is exactly what it results in. Maybe when I answered my phone at the beginning of the presentation, you might have felt that, but it was just a second, and you are grown-ups. But kids, they have a sense of helplessness. They have no one to turn to if they have a problem. They're confused. They may have some questions, but the parents never answered, or maybe they didn't even ask the question. They lose their confidence and trust in their parents because their parents don't find time for them. And kids feel like, oh, there's always something more important than me. My parents don't have time for me. And even the parents that repeat how much they love their kid and how important the kid is, when those words are not followed by actions, by behaviors, by empathy, then kids find it hard to believe it. Teenagers, and we've seen that more and more, are trying to look for close relationships outside. If they don't have that in their home, they will look for closeness somewhere outside of their family. They go to peer groups, or sometimes they go simply to the wide internet. So, let me tell you about Clara. She's 15. She's spending more and more time online each month, sometimes more than 10 hours a day. She's always holding her phone. She can watch YouTube for hours. She uses social media all the time, Snapchat, Facebook, the Messenger. Sometimes she spends the whole night talking to someone online, then in the morning she doesn't go to school. If she does go to school, she's sleepy, drowsy, she's not focused, she doesn't have her homework ready. So actually her results, academic results, are deteriorating. All the attempts that grown-ups in her life take to limit her contact with the internet lead to her violence, aggression, rebellion. Grown-ups in her life define this situation as follows. Clara has a problem with the internet. In order to solve it, we have to be consistent, we have to introduce rules, and if it doesn't work, we have to use punishment, and we have to limit her privileges. So that's the way adults define it. They narrow down, reduce what's going on with their kid to those very simple things. So it's an oversimplification, and it's simply not true, because using too much of the internet, being too much online, is a sign that something is going on in our kid's life, and it's a symptom. And beyond that symptom, there could be so much more, just like that, just like this proverbial tip of the iceberg. So it's just a sign, it's just a symptom. What will happen beneath? We don't know. It depends on their environment, on their parents, and so on. In case of Clara, she had problems in her peer group. No one noticed that. She was left alone with that. No one helped her. Her parents were divorcing at that time. They were fighting a lot with one another. They were focused on their own problems. And this girl, she was very emotional about their breakup. She was uncertain of her future. And whenever she was witnessing a fight between her parents, she simply put her earphones on and she went online so she could soothe all the negative emotions, and she was looking for closeness and relationships that she couldn't find at home. So loneliness, isolation, low social competences, low self-esteem, a distorted self-image, conflicts within the family, death of someone close, conflicts in a peer group. These are some of the factors that could lead a kid to be dysfunctional with the internet. But take her smartphone away or take away her charger, these are not the solutions. You need to really take care of the problem beneath the symptoms.
Our foundation's name is Empowering Children. This is the title also of the presentation, part of it. It's worth actually to think, and we have to think, what does this mean? What does empowering children in the context of internet means? Because we say we are trying to make kids happy, that we are trying to protect them against threats. And what does this mean in the times of internet? And we've been thinking of that for years already. This is a process that has evolved, and in the first years we rather focus on risk factors. We have seen, well, we followed the threats and development of internet, and we started to manage it somehow. When the communicators appeared, we were trying to warn kids, check who is on the other side, don't talk to people you don't know. Now the child pornography, and facing this problem, we always recommend to use the parental control and parental filters. So we see threats and we propose solutions. That's one very important direction. It's still valid because we have to follow this intensely developing world of internet, and we have to look for solutions, and we have to educate young people. But what we see today, what we have noticed already years ago, is proving that it's not sufficient. What is most important nowadays is relationship between kids and parents. And as we've seen in the example given in other relations, actually nothing can happen without proper relations. Without proper relations, you can't employ the safety rules, security rules. Relation is about being in contact, rendering not only information on safety and security, it's about values, enriching children's lives by experiences that will help them in offline and online worlds. We have been talking about it in our activities for years already. Last year we started campaign Prudent Parents, Mindful Parents. What does this mean, actually, to be a mindful parent in the context of threats coming from internet? Mindfulness, but also leadership in context of student-teacher relations. And we tend to forget it. We sometimes do not even know how to do it, and it's not surprising because we were not taught at schools how to build relations or competences. None of us studied at universities, and our experience from our families does not build this positive example so that we want to copy them, and this responsibility to build relations with our kids lies on us, adults. Kids need us. They need adults who have time to be with them here and now. Those who are present, committed, and who are really mindful and who demonstrate their interest. This is not time where we are trying, when we are with children, this is not the time where we are trying to teach them something new, to make them keep their rooms tidy. And this is just time for your children, time just for the sake of time. Relation is also about curiosity, being curious, really being interested what the true needs of our children are. This curiosity can be demonstrated by mindful listening, questions that we ask, the way that we interact with children. This curiosity is also openness to kids' emotions and the willingness and readiness to understand their perspective. Relation is also about creativity. As you perfectly know, there are no solutions and ideas that fit all. There are kids that do not follow all the rules. They are like the elements, they can be predicted, therefore the relations with children cannot follow just a single scenario. This is not a set of questions you have to ask or answers that you have to provide. These are not the words that you have to express every day. And these scenarios are actually requested by parents quite often. Relation is simply the way, it's like a journey, the way that we have to follow. This is our continuous openness towards kids, following their dreams, their thoughts, their emotions. This is the way we build these close relations. Such a close and mindful relation is a factor that protects young children against threats and risky behaviors. The feeling of acceptance, being accepted by adults, by teachers, this strong, safe bond is like the something that protects, shield that protects them. Kids who feel safe at home will not actually search for anything interesting online. These children will cope with the peer pressure. They will not need actually to follow the group. They will not undergo manipulation. This child will have the courage to say no. They will be bold to say that they don't like some things. Kids who discuss with parents the close relations, intimacy aspects, privacy aspects, they will not look for this knowledge from internet and where they can find pornography. At the end of the day, these children will be trusting in their parents. In case of difficult, risky situations, they will ask for help. This is not a quick win road, and this is not a path that we can actually achieve positive results quickly. This is the path where we have to follow to observe our behaviors, our attitudes. This is our responsibility for the relationship that we are trying to build. We have to be responsible for our success and for our failure, and we have to admit it. This is also about openness and readiness for change. This is also about changing mindsets, where the relation with children are equal, subject to subject, peer to peer. And there is a healthy balance in such relation. And all this must happen in the reality where constantly short of time, where the to-do list is just a never-ending list. This is the reality where the achievements, attainments, rankings and success is the most important, and we are held responsible for that. Is that possible at all to create such a relationship? Healthy relationship? Yes, there is a need to take decisions, to set priorities, to shift the focus, to be able to make first steps. Even the first minutes where we stop and talk to our kids, support them, demonstrate their interest, this already makes a difference. And in few minutes you can demonstrate change of behavior. 15 minutes of true interest from parents, being here and now, is able to support children when they face the pressure and challenges in their daily lives. So we said already the relations are very important. We also know what they are, how to build them, but many parents tend to say, when are we going to do it? In times of internet, in times of when we are all the time busy, when we never have enough time. But we have to do it if, as parents, we truly think of the safe, secure and healthy development and growth of our children. There are more and more surveys proving that this isolation from internet improves relations in families. It positively impacts children. Children have better rates at school. They have improved their relations with the environment. So the level of satisfaction is also growing. We can't wait until someone comes up with an idea, patented it, and just we will follow the trend. No, we can be trendsetters ourselves. We can be a good example, the role models for our friends. We can agree with other friends that we go for such change together, jointly, and we start from ourselves, from our families. And this, we follow simple principles, maybe not simple at the end of the day, however, very important and feasible principles. For instance, we should have one place at one location at home where no one is using mobile phone. We can say there is a certain time when we don't use mobile phones. At lunch, breakfast, we don't go to bed with a mobile phone. We put it away. We should, when we are together on weekends or on holidays, we simply inform our friends that we are offline, and this offline time is spent on rebuilding the relations. And these principles that we can implement at home as parents, these are not principles that will protect children from internet. They will not actually stop internet from negatively impacting children. These are the principles that will create space for relations and closer contacts. Our reality is changing in an unpredictable way. Something that was an idea of futurologists in the past is nowadays our reality. How can we prepare our children for this rapidly changing environment? Let's think of things that do not change. When we were growing up, when the internet was not actually our reality, and at times the feeling of feeling of safety, security, close relations, that was something of a great value. We wanted to be seriously treated by the adults. We wanted to feel being loved. And when we did not get it, it was difficult. And now we know about kids and their development more than we've ever knew. And we know what actually is good, positive, what builds their resources, what supports their development. Do we do enough to support their strengths? Thank you.